All right. Welcome back, everyone, to Cage Side Casual. We're off the heels of, not the most exciting UFC event of the year. I don't know if you would agree or not, but nonetheless, today we're going to cover some of that and a lot of the big announcements that happened this week as well. I guess just jumping right into the main event, Uriah Hall versus Sean Strickland. We saw a guy in Uriah Hall who is perennially in the lower rung of the top 10, and Sean Strickland, who has some promise, and he was fighting to get into the top 10, and he was riding a 4-fight win streak, but hadn't really fought, hasn't been super active, so I think people might have forgotten about him, but I think he definitely made a statement. What do you think?
Absolutely. I think he probably won all 5 rounds. It was not the sexiest fight. I think Hall had a lot of problems getting going, which we've seen from him before, and he's getting up in age. I think he's like 37 now, so this might really be the end of him for kind of good placements on cards. But I think Strickland showed a lot, and between the beginning rounds, have a lot of boxing, getting the takedowns kind of round 3, 4, 5, and a little bit of everything. I think it was impressive in one sense, but you get the other kind of sense of whenever a guy sets a striking record, I don't always see that as a good thing. That means you had a long night. That means you didn't get a finish. Compared to making a short night, a couple punches to end a fight in the first round, Francis Ngannou style. Give him credit, he did well, but I think when we walk away from that main event, we have to ask ourselves, what is it going to lead to? I think Strickland can obviously get a fight against a higher ranked opponent now. And I think what we can open this discussion up to is how that will go, because the top of that middleweight division is quite loaded. Let me kick to you. What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely agree. His style and the way he fought with such volume reminded me a lot of Nate Diaz. The wrestling was kind of there. We've seen Nate get some takedowns in his latest fights, but not dominant wrestling. He's not slamming people like Khabib. He's not, getting submissions. It was a really solid performance. I think Hall looked to be like the much quicker guy early on. You saw that, but Strickland just really walked him down. He's pretty crazy, man. He can take a punch, and I think his style of volume striking, I think it offers some unique matchups to those top guys. Do I think he's going to be able to knock out Paulo Costa, Jared Cannonier, or out wrestle,
Vittori,
Vittori or Roger
Brunson.
Whittaker? Probably
Right.
not. But if he fights that style of fight and he can drag it out to 5 rounds, I think, I wouldn't be surprised if some of those top guys were looking at it. And I think he's now 7 or 8 in the updated rankings. I think a lot of those guys might not want that fight. It's just he could be hard to put away. He could just be like a miserable 5-round out. But I think with his upright stance, I could see Adesanya chopping his legs away, same as Cannonier. I don't think he's going to be able to walk down Paulo Costa. Paulo Costa's the guy that
nobody walks him down.
And no one really walks him down. Same with Vittori. I think Vittori versus Uriah Hall is just much more physically imposing, as are pretty much everyone else above him. So, I don't know if that style is going to work or not, but he's not going to at least try to. He's not going to win fights with power or flash or like dominant jiu-jitsu and wrestling.
No.
So if he fights that type of Nate Diaz style fight, he can maybe be a problem for someone.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of guys in the top division, like you're saying, they're not going to go 5 rounds. They're going to end that fight earlier. And I do think it's a good way for us to kind of transition to talking kind of top down about this division. First, I think we can jump right in at the top with Izzy and Whittaker too. I don't recall if we have a date, probably towards the end of the year. The first matchup wasn't overly competitive, and I think that Izzy's put himself in a place that he's beat everyone. He's going to start beating everyone a second time. He did with Marvin. And I think the guys right below him are really, really good, except you don't realize it because Izzy is so much better than all of them. Even the recent fight against Vittori, he didn't get a finish, but he still looked incredible. It was a masterful performance, and there's not enough great things you can say about him. So maybe the fight will last longer than the second round, like the first one did, However, I don't see Whitaker taking his title back. What do you think?
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I mean, the middleweight division could definitely use some lifeblood,
Yeah.
some new prospects. It just seems like there's a very clear hierarchy. Like Izzy's the best, Whitaker's probably better than everyone else. I would love to see him fight like Paulo Costa. I think
Yeah.
Costa was the X factor, and we saw what happened with that. He drank too much wine, whatever
Yeah.
happened. But
Yeah, and I think he'll have to work a lot harder, Costa that is, to get back to that title fight than maybe some of these other guys, because he's been in Dana's doghouse a little bit, and maybe with some of these other guys that would only need one fight to get the title fight back, he might have to work a little bit harder. But there's so many matchups you could make. Like Costa versus anyone at the top, I think is just fun. You're going to see Rock'em Sock'em Robots. You're going to see like
yeah,
his fight with Yoel Romero and just insanity. And these are big guys. I mean, Vittori, he was weighing in. They said around 230 before cutting the weight. I mean, just massive guys.
yeah,
And good time to mention then the fight that was just announced this week, Costa versus Vittori. I think we were supposed to get this originally when was it Kevin Holland filled in for Costa. I'm sorry, no, for Darren Till filled in for Kevin Holland filled in for Darren Till. Let me do that one more time. But this will be a really fun fight. Who do you got?
yeah. I mean, I still got Costa. I mean, I think his style of like boxing and his like just dynamic like angles, the way he was able to like cut off the cage, land punches and combinations. The Yoel Romero fight really impressed me. I think people might have forgotten about that just because of his last performance against Izzy, but Yoel was the fight that no one wanted. Um, I think Costa did more damage to him arguably than Izzy did.
Yeah,
Yoel was,
yeah,
he was walking Yoel down, and he took some great shots from him, showed great hips. Do I think Vittori's going to be able to hold Costa down with wrestling? Definitely not. If Romero
yeah.
couldn't,
I don't think anyone could.
we saw Costa throw in those butterfly hooks and spring right back up first time, and so yeah, I see this not being an easy fight for Costa, but I see him being able to, use some of that boxing, and yeah, I think he'll get a finish.
I totally agree. I think this will be a performance where Costa reminds us kind of who he is. I think Izzy is kind of on that, in some senses, the Khabib level of he makes guys not look like themselves because they change their style so much to try to do what they think will work against him. And that's what we saw of Costa. He mentally was not himself. And I know we talked about the wine and whether it's true or not, whatever it may be. I mean, he did not look like the fighter we're used to seeing. We never see him not just moving forward, but he couldn't close distance. He looked awkward, and one thing led to another with a couple of quick shots. Next thing you know, Izzy's getting on top of him, literally and metaphorically. So that'll
Yeah,
be a great fight to see. I think the next one to cover would be Darren Till versus Derek Brunson. What do you think?
mhm. Yeah. I mean, I still I like Darren Tillman. I think he's the X factor in the division
Yeah,
still. He put up a solid fight against Whitaker, who I think is the clear
that was a
number two
really solid fight.
in the division. Yeah, I think he was able to land. He's long, he's technical, and I think I'm not sure if Brunson has the wrestling to impose his will until Till's got good hips against the fence. I don't think he's gonna necessarily be able to take him down at will like he was Kevin Holland. I think Till spent time in Brazil. His jiu-jitsu is solid, as from what I hear, and yeah, I really do like Till. I think he's the guy that if he can stay healthy, he really could be the one with a couple of good wins under his belt to maybe give Izzy some problems. But
And once
yeah,
again, I totally agree with you. I think Till, he's lost a little bit of steam kind of in the public eye with, changing weight classes and obviously the injury that pulled him out of his last fight against Vittori that was in line there. So I think we're forgetting about him a little bit, but again, one performance can get him back in everybody's minds. All the reasons you said, he's dynamic. He can, I mean, when he fought Masvidal, he put him on his ass in a minute, if that. He's very powerful, and we have to remember too, he's someone that Izzy has not fought yet, And Izzy wants to kind of go through all the guys at the top, and some of them we're already seeing twice. I wouldn't be shocked if Izzy beats Whitaker and Till beats Brunson and maybe one other fight, depending on kind of how the schedule falls out. And if Till were to get a title shot, almost based off that. Almost the same thing with Usman. He's almost looking to fight anyone who's left at this point. They're running through the rest of their divisions, and that could be in line.
Yeah. I think, and you can see by the Vegas line, Till's the favorite. I think.
Do you know what it is right now?
Yeah, he's minus 160, I believe.
Fair enough. Yeah.
And so I think a dominant knockout to just sort of, because he's popular, he trolls online.
Totally.
I think he just has to show up. I think the Masvidal fight really surprised a lot of people, including him. And then from there, I don't want to say he hasn't been the same, but I think like we were saying, he just needs that coming out party once again to really just remind everyone. There was so much hype around him.
Yep.
Coming out, I really think he has the skills to at least give Izzy some trouble.
Yeah, and activity never hurts, right? I mean, I know the injury was unpredictable and wasn't his choice by any means, but he gets this fight, he stays active, and he can get there before we know it.